Well, the UK government is framing the Canal listing as a vote of confidence in the London Stock Exchange, which has seen its largest exodus this year since the financial crisis of 2008. London has attracted just 18 new listings in 2024, the most notable being computer firm Raspberry Pi and sports health brand Applied Nutrition. Susannah Streeter is Head of Money and Markets at Hargreaves, Lansdown. Great to have you on the show again, Susannah. Look, let's start with the float itself. Why did Vivendi, the conglomerate with roots in 19th century France, spin off Canal+?
Well, it was considered to be worth more than the sum of its parts as a conglomerate if all of these different businesses were hived off, which is why you've seen Havas, the advertising arm, listing as well today, as well as Hachette, the publishing arm, and Canal+. And Canal+ really has changed from being a business that really served French subscribers to tripling its subscriber base all over the world. And the company really wanted to capitalize on that, this huge growth in subscriber numbers, and also the success of a number of its hits, most recently the Paddington movie, but also a series like Versailles, for example, is become much more of a global name, Canal+, and so it wanted to list to try and attract interest from around the world.
This was the biggest IPO of 2024 for the London Stock Exchange, but those shares dropped quite a bit, which values the company smaller than British TV rival ITV, despite having annual revenues about a third larger. So why do you think trading in Canal+ might be a little bit bumpy to start with?
Well, often you do get this kind of volatility when you have an IPO in the hours, days, and even weeks after a company has listed, and certainly you're seeing that playing out. It was a bit of a disappointing debut. It wasn't the blockbuster open that perhaps the company would have liked to see, but also wasn't totally unexpected because some of those investors who did hold Vivendi shares, they may have been forced to sell because they may not have been able to retain those Canal+ shares because they have to list in the French market. Could be that some of the bigger investment firms who hold those shares, that may have caused them to sell them, and then that has led to this drop that we've seen. For example, funds that track the French stock market, for example. Perhaps the fall was a little bit greater than expected, but as I say, there is often volatility following an IPO until there is a kind of the true price reached, but that may not be known for a few days or even weeks.
But it's way off that $6 billion mark that they were hoping for. Look, that's going to be a company to watch, that's for sure. But I want to talk about UK listings more generally, because as we said, firms are leaving London in their droves. 88 either delisted or transferred their primary listings just this year. Has London become uncompetitive, Susannah?
I don't think it's become uncompetitive. It certainly is tough to try and lure firms to list in London when you've got the bright lights of New York, and certainly with what you've seen with valuations soaring for tech giants in the United States, it's understandable that some firms want some of that sheen to rub off on their valuations as well. And so you are seeing some non-tech firms being lured over as well as the likes of Arm, for example, which of course was a disappointment that it chose to list in New York instead. But Ashtead is one of the latest, the equipment's supply, rental equipment, but again it has the vast majority of its business in the United States, around 98%, so that too can be understandable. But certainly I think when you had Canal+ deciding to list in London, and one of the reasons being is that it has this kind of global reputation as a global investment hub, and the listing rule changes that we've seen brought in last year with the combination of the Premier and Standard segments of the London Stock Exchange. I think we are starting to see this narrative change, and particularly with the new government, there is more stability now, and that should help, certainly with listings in London looking brighter, the prospects for 2025.